Record na tayo.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see everybody, and hopefully everyone's feeling well and had a restful weekend. Today, I would like to talk about building and developing the relationship with our patient or our employer and his family. I always add that, we have to see everyone as a group, family included. And again, I'm going to be talking about, things that are related, and I invite you to participate. And we'll have a 5-minute break in about half hour or so. Anat, are we going to have a guest tomorrow in our, I can't hear you.
It seems that we will have a guest,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I haven't got
Okay, so you'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. So let's see what building the relationship with our employer is all about. So building and developing a relationship with our patient incorporates a few steps. So first we must talk about creating good communication, then coordination of expectations, building trust, very important, and creating the caregiving alliance and taking into account, of course, social and cultural components. So let's see what that's all about. So first, no matter what culture your background you're from, or you're exposed to, or you're living in, there are certain types of communication, the communication types that we encounter no matter where we are. And before we talk about building a relationship, we want to be able to understand different types of communication styles. So I'm going to talk about 4 types of communication styles that perhaps you can already be aware of or identify, and how to deal with them. So first, we want to talk about creating good communication. Think about the different types of and styles in which people communicate. Every person has a unique communication style and way in which they interact and exchange information with others. There are 4 basic communication styles that I'm going to talk about: the passive, the aggressive, the passive-aggressive, and the assertive. It's important to understand each communication style and why individuals use them. For example, the assertive communication style has been found to be the most effective because it incorporates the best aspects of all the other styles. When we break down these 4 styles, we'll better understand the characteristics of each style, standard phrases, and what makes them unique. So first, we'll talk about the passive communication style. Passive communicators often display a lack of eye contact, poor body posture, and an inability to say no. Passive communicators also act in a way that states, "People never consider my feelings." And passive communicators are also easy to get along with as they follow orders and go with the flow. But I always say that there's a big but involved in these kind of communicators. Sometimes it's considered polite. Sometimes it's considered to respect, the person who you're communicating with, to be passive, not to look them in the eye, not to say no if you disagree, to, kind of take a back step in the interaction. And this kind of communication has a very severe negative aspect to it. Number one, because the passive communicator never really allows us to know what it is he's thinking and what it is he's feeling. And also, passive communicators can be very easily misunderstood and taken advantage of. Because if someone suggests something and you don't say no, then they may understand that it means that you agree with them, right? And you can easily be taken advantage of, and so on and so forth. So being a passive communicator, even if it's the type of communication that you're used to or that you encounter in your employer behavior, it makes it very difficult to be understanding of a person's feelings and interactions, okay, and actions, sorry. The aggressive communicator is a style that emphasizes speaking in a loud and demanding voice, maintaining intense eye contact, dominating or controlling others by blaming, intimidating, criticizing, threatening, attacking them, among other traits. So obviously, this is a very difficult way to communicate. If we encounter this kind of interaction style in our employers or someone else within his family and so on, it makes us automatically cringe and turn away. No one likes to feel that he's being manipulated or attacked, criticized, intimidated, and so on. And again, this makes it very difficult to communicate because our automatic reaction is to kind of step away, right? And usually we're turned off by the way that they speak and don't really hear what it is they want to communicate, okay? Obviously, they have difficulty in communicating. This is not a very good way to communicate, obviously, right? Passive-aggressive communication style. Passive-aggressive communication style users appear passive on the surface, but within he or she may feel powerless, stuck, and built up a resentment that leads to seething, acting out in subtle, indirect, and secret ways. Most passive-aggressive communicators will mutter to themselves rather than confront a person or an issue. They have difficulty in acknowledging their anger, use facial expressions that don't correlate with how they feel, and even deny that there is a problem. Again, this kind of communication, being passive-aggressive, is also very difficult to deal with because we don't know what a person is really thinking. They're sending off double messages, right? They seem passive on the outside, but on the inside, they're angry, they're disappointed, they're whatever. And so being a passive-aggressive communicator is also a very negative way to communicate and very difficult to understand when a person is behaving in that way, right? Because again, you don't know what they're thinking because they're acting in an opposite way. And of course, the assertive communication style. Assertive communicators can express their own needs, desires, ideas, and feelings while also considering the needs of others. This is a very recommended type of communication style that we try to be ourselves and to be direct and honest and straightforward and look a person in the eye and say what we think, exactly what we feel. One of the keys to assertive communication is using the I statements, such as, I feel frustrated when you are late for a meeting, or I don't like having to explain this over and over again. It indicates ownership and a feeling and behaviors without blaming others and criticizing others and so on. So being assertive in our communication is highly recommended. A few more traits of these type of communications. So the passive communicator, again, to summarize, is emotionally dishonest, indirect, inhibited, self-denying, blaming, and apologetic. The passive-aggressive communicator is emotionally dishonest, indirect, self-denying at first, and self-enhancing at the expense of others later. The aggressive communicator is inappropriately honest, direct, expressive, attacking, blaming, controlling, self-enhancing at the expense of others. And the assertive communicator, the one that we try to be ourselves and hopefully will encounter in our employer, is the appropriately being honest, direct, self-enhancing, expressive, self-confident, empathetic to the emotions of all involved. So again, these are 4 types of communication styles that you may encounter. And I will just say that tools for effective communication, understanding how others communicate, can be a key to getting your own message across to them. In order to develop effective communication style, here are a few tips to keep in mind. Take ownership, which means use the I statement. Say what I think, what I understand, what I know, what I prefer, and so on. Maintain eye contact, very important. Please maintain eye contact. Look a person in the eye, try to get their full attention, and say what you think, what you mean, what you understand. Voice your needs and desires confidently, and don't forget to smile. Very important. Okay, no matter what you say, what you think, what you feel, if you smile, it's a whole other world. I want to tell you all that for many years, I was in charge of an agency that provided services for elderly people. And when I was interviewing people for work, an interview took about an hour or so, sometimes a little more. If a person didn't smile a lot during that interview, no matter what we talked about, I preferred not to hire them. Being a smiler is a very important characteristic in effective communication, okay? So even if you feel like it, and even if you don't feel like it, you gotta smile. It's very important, okay? Otherwise, you know, when you're new in a situation and you're not a smiler, people may think that you're stern, that you're angry, that you're, you know, all kinds of things come up. But when you're a smiler, they know that you feel comfortable and that you know, and you're projecting goodwill. So this is what you want to do, right? You want to project goodwill. Smile a lot. All right, smile a lot. I can't emphasize it more. Consciously smile, even if you don't feel like it. How to deal with aggressive behavior or aggressive language. You may have to encounter that kind of a situation. Here is a YouTube presentation that may help you with that kind of a situation, okay? And again, I just want to say that in Israel, you may find people speaking loudly with a lot of body language and hand gestures and facial gestures. Look at me, I'm all over the place, right? Again, it does not necessarily mean that I'm angry or that I'm, you know, voicing, you know, this disbelief that, you know, anything negative. It's just the way we speak and communicate. Okay, a lot of tacos, a lot of, you know, a lot of noise. So let's talk a little bit about nonverbal communication. I think we all know how important that is. And being a newcomer in a different, you know, without the use of a common language, English is not your mother tongue. It's not your employer's mother tongue. If at all you have a common language, you're going to be super sensitive to all of the nonverbal communication that is going to be in the interaction between you and your employer and his family and all of your surroundings, okay? So along with the 4 communication styles that we spoke about, there is also the nonverbal communication. Nonverbal communication is a way in which people can transfer information between them without the use of words from the spoken, written, or sign language. Nonverbal communication is expressed in facial expressions, body language, collapsed hand indicate closure, tone of voice, physical gestures, standing, touching. So now this is important. You have to make a very intense effort to find out what makes your employer feel calm, relaxed, confident, and, you know, all of those things that make him feel comfortable and so on and so forth. When you enter a person's home, he's automatically tense, having a stranger in his home, in his private, you know, in his private space, in the place where he feels most secure, makes everybody feels insecure and tense. And with Corona and everything else in our, you know, in our circles of life today, all of these things that make us very anxious, not, you know, it changes everybody's mood. To see family, not to see family, to go out, not to go out, to be, you know, to be with masks, not to be with masks. All of these things, you know, make everyone feel very anxious, very insecure. And the thing that you want to do is be in control, or try to be in control of the comfort level of your employer. Okay, so I recommend from the very beginning, make a list, write things down, because it's going to be very useful to you in the future. Okay, find out what were the things that make him feel comfortable in terms of all the senses: smell, touch, sight, sounds, and of course textile. What makes him feel? What does he like to be touched? Does he not like to be touched? Does he like to touch things? Okay, look at Anat. She's sitting there stroking her cat. We know that that brings her comfort, right? So if people like animals, if people like, if people like to stroke other kinds of, whatever, all of those things are very important. Okay, it's very important to know what makes you feel calm and relaxed, and also very important to know what makes your employer feel calm and relaxed. This is a big part of our job. Tools for effective non-communication: active listening. Find out what your patient's opinions, thoughts, and emotions. Try not to make assumptions and not to make judgments, right? Try to find out what their history, what their stories are. Like I said before, ask them to show you family albums, ask who those people are. Walk around the house, you see things on the shelves, ask them to tell you stories about the book, about the picture, about the knickknacks on the shelves, whatever it is in the area. Ask them to tell you all about themselves, okay? Reflection, a very important tool. In order to make sure you understood what your patient meant, try to reflect that you understood what he said by saying, I understand that so-and-so, this is what you said, I see that, I ask questions, did you say this and that, right? Repeat what they say. Try to repeat using even their own words, so that gives a person a feeling of affirmation that he has been heard and hopefully understood. Empathy, try to empathize with your patient, even if you don't agree with them. And of course, the I message. When you talk about your own opinion and thoughts, use the word I, right? This is what you think, this is what you feel, this is what you understand. It's not something that's universally necessarily true. More tools for effective communication. Patience, 3 stars next to the word patience. I think we all know that. Be patient with your patient and his family. Okay, very important to understand that your employer, your patient has a family. I think that you'll find out soon. And usually Jewish Israeli people are very family oriented. Okay, if families are involved, they're usually very close, and very often they take part in caring for an elder patient or a disabled person, and perhaps they divide, whatever needs to be done. Maybe one person takes care of finances, another takes care of medicine, and third one may take care of something else. Each family is very different in how they deal with things. But you must understand that the family is a very important tool for you, okay? You have to know who are the people that can help you when you need help, either to understand what your employer needs or wants, how to care for him best, and so on. And if you need anything, of course, they would be willing to help you as well. I advise you to be proactive. Find out if perhaps there's like a Viber group or a WhatsApp group within the family. Perhaps you can join and be proactive in giving them a report. We had a great week, everything was good. We had difficulty, maybe one time at night, or, just be proactive in giving off that information. And I also want you to be sensitive to the fact that Corona has made, like I said before, people very anxious about being, in contact, perhaps with grandchildren, children, and so on. So help them maintain relationships, okay? How do we maintain our own relationship? Through the internet, right? Make a list of all the friends, all the family, what their telephone numbers are. Try to make a connection through, the internet, to see them, to have a regular, scheduled like you would be in contact with your own family so that they would be in contact with their family. I would assume, maybe I'm wrong, but I would assume that elder disabled people are not so savvy in using the computer and so on. So be an assistant in that respect as well. Okay, try to facilitate that for them and make their life that much more meaningful and comfortable. Tolerance, right next to patience, is tolerance. Even if you don't agree with your patient or your employer, try to respect his opinion. Okay, it's okay to disagree, make conversation about it, but try to be tolerant, right? I want to tell you that, everybody, after you know a person on a real set in a real way, then usually all of our prejudices and misconceptions kind of dissipate. So it's very important to get to know your patient, and I don't know, maybe he has ideas about politics, about life, about religion, about whatever that you may disagree with. Okay, everybody's entitled to their opinions. Hopefully it won't be something personalized against you. Nonverbal communication, okay? When talking to a patient, maintain eye contact. Try to speak at eye level, relax your speech, calm your tone of voice. What does eye level mean? It means many things, but I'll speak about two aspects of it. Number one, in a real sense, most of your employers are going to be sitting or laying down. So when you're talking to them, feeding them, bathing them, clothing them, whatever it is, sit down, be at their eye level. It's very uncomfortable. And, someone is talking above you, trying to feed you, looking up. It's very disrespectful and uncomfortable. So first of all, you must be physically at eye level. And of course, there are other meanings, not to talk down to to anyone because they are more disabled, because they don't hear well, they don't see well, and so on, not to be controlling, not to be bossy. All of those things also mean not to talk down to someone, right? They're not lesser, even though they are older and disabled or whatever. Yes. So we want to be respectful and speak at correct eye level. I invite you, participate, ask questions, share your experiences. What is your communication style? What, in your opinion, is the best communication style? What can you do if your patient has a communication style that is difficult to handle? Which concerns do you have about your own patient communication? Hey, if they don't speak Hebrew, if they don't speak English, if they speak a different language altogether at home, and I said before, many families may have, backgrounds that they've immigrated from other countries, Spanish, French, Russian, Ethiopian, Arabic, very often spoken in Israeli families. Communication would be that much more difficult. Anyone like to share or ask a question? Please do. Anat, how many are joining us today?
Today we have 20.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yes.
So most of everyone has joined us.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go ahead, guys. This is the stages for you to talk about anything. Anyone learned a little bit of Hebrew yet? Or knows that they're not going to be speaking English in the family that they're staying with?
Ma'am, wait. In my case, so since I haven't met my future employer, but it's written in the contract that my employer can speak. I don't know if he can speak or he can understand, but it's written there. He can understand English and Hebrew. So maybe since my employer can understand English, maybe I have also I have to be also assertive on how to communicate in Hebrew. Be difficult for me, but being a care provider, I should learn also the Hebrew language, even the basic language. So I think that would be more helpful for us.
Absolutely right. Because you're going to be, you know, many hours in the home with your employers, but you're also going to be, you know, outside of the home, going to the market, going, you know, doing all these other activities that will involve Hebrew. So you're going to be going to the clinic for his medication. You're going to be going shopping. You're going to be, right, doing all of these other services, and you need to know the language inside the home and outside the home. In general, I will say that English has become, as you know, an international language in most cultures, right? Because of the internet and so on. So you will find that on the street, very often many people do speak English. But nonetheless, Hebrew is the language of this, you know, the country. And so, yes, you'll have to make an effort.
Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am. It'd be very assertive.
Do you speak any other languages besides?
Ma'am, I speak Arabic, but I'm not fluent, but only few Arabic words.
All right, so you already have a small advantage over anyone who has not learned any kind of a semantic language. You know this gesture, right? Are you familiar with this?
Sway, ma'am. Like, yeah, sway.
Shway, shway in Arabic and rega, rega
Yes,
in
ma'am, I
Hebrew.
know that. Sway, sway.
Rega, rega,
here.
right? You wave your hand, you put your fingers together, you wave your hand, and that means slowly, slowly, a minute, please. Rega, rega. In
Slowly,
Hebrew, we
rega.
say rega, rega. Right. Gotta smile while you're doing it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Would anyone else like to share or ask a question? Hi, ladies.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, would you like to ask a question or share something?
Sure.
You're not sure what is the best communication style?
Being direct, very good.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello.
Yes. Hello. Before, ma'am, I'm working in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Hello.
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead. You worked in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, before I have experience. When I start the working in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, I don't know how to speak Arabic. But the days pass. The days, weeks, months pass. I know how to speak.
Oh, good. That's encouraging. And do you speak Arabic now?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wonderful. So how
My
long did it
employer
take you to understand?
4 years I'm working there in Riyadh.
You worked in
That's
Riyadh.
why I know how to speak.
Okay, good. So you also have an advantage. Many Hebrews words it sounds similar, so you will understand Hebrew very quickly. And how long did it take you to understand Arabic?
Yes.
6 months, a year? How long did it take?
Maybe 3 months, ma'am.
Oh, quickly. 3 months is not long. Oh, good. So you have a good aptitude for languages. Do you play a musical instrument?
No.
Okay, you have a good ear for for languages.
Ma'am, before first day, I have a lot of signs. I learned a lot of signs. To talk to Madam, Ummi, Baba, and members of the family.
Okay. It's a big job. It's a very
Then
big job to learn a new language, to learn about all the needs of your employer and his family and how, and to meet their expectations. It's a very big job. Okay, in 3 months you understood. Wow, that's wonderful. So I hope that you're optimistic about picking up Hebrew quickly as well.
I hope so.
I think so. Yes. It's an aptitude. People are good at different things. Some people, pick up languages. Some people pick up dancing. Some people, it's an aptitude that's okay. Good. Did it once, you'll do it again.
You learn
Good for
to
you.
sign language, mom.
Sign language is very important too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Body language. Absolutely. Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, ma'am. Shukran.
Shukran. Wonderful. Toda. In Hebrew, we say toda rabba. But mostly you'll find that if you use Arabic words, many people will understand you in Israel as well, because, we have this kind of interaction with all of our Arab neighbors and residents and so on. So Arabic is, a very readily used language as well.
Familiar, numbers, days.
Anyone else would like to ask something or share something?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi.
Hello. Actually, I just have concern because, in my own opinion, from my past experience, I've learned that the best communication style for me is the nonverbal for the elderly, especially in guiding them, or especially when they're sick, just giving them direction through nonverbal or body language. So my question is, because usually I get so close to some elderly patient that I had before in my past work, like giving them a tender, loving touch, like holding their hands by guiding them. So I'm just concerned if that kind of, what do you call this one, action is not a problem in Jewish culture. Like, are they touchy? Like, do they mind? Like, if for example, we're a stranger to them, if we started to work for them, should we try to distance ourselves first, or is it okay already, like touching their hands, like if they're guiding them, or should I ask first that, is it okay if I hold your hands, something like that, like asking them permission first to do that action? Because naturally, when I worked before, if it's elderly, like it's comforting for them, like if they're in bed, they're in pain, you just hold their hands, you just kind of, what do you call this one, you just try to touch their head or their face, like try to calm them. So I wonder if that would be an awkward thing to do to a Jewish person.
Well, I will say, I'll tell you a few things. First of all, Josie, is that your name?
Yes.
Okay. So I will say, Anat usually, talks about a culture and says that we're a very touchy-feely kind of a culture. And so I think that in general, people are touching in our communication in Israel as in general. There's always, people that don't like to be touched. But I think that in general, people do need to be touched. I want to tell you that, I'm very happy that you asked about touching, because in some cultures it's not considered okay, but you will find that in Israel, people like to be touched. You'll find that on most business streets, there are many massage parlors. People like to be touched. I want to talk about the fact that elderly people, nobody touches them. I want you to be aware of that, okay? Children are, they touch each other, they rumble, they play, they're touched by their family, their friends. Old people, nobody touches them. And I want you to know that this is the touch, the sense of touch is a very, very important stimulation for well-being, okay? And at any age, for any kind of life, okay? I won't talk about plants, but I'll talk about all kinds of, life creatures need to be touched, the stroking is a very important part of well-being, okay? And nobody touches old people. So if you're a person that's very sensitive to it and aware of it, I commend you for that, because it's very important part of therapy to be touched, okay, really. And it doesn't have to be any kind of, how should I say it? It's a physical need for any living thing to be touched and to be stroked, absolutely. And very often we recommend that people do it to themselves, massage themselves, okay? Very important to have that stimulation for well-being, okay? I highly recommend that you do it as much and as often as you feel that you're capable. And of course, it's always, always important to ask if if it feels good to the person that you're touching, okay? It's always important to ask, but you'll find out very quickly how they respond. If they respond, they become stiff and anxious, or if they're relaxed and kind of, give themselves to the touch. You'll feel it right away. And I encourage you to do as much touching as you can. Anyone else would like to comment or respond to what I said? There have been many studies done about how massage affects old people's well-being, and it's all very important.
Yes, ma'am. By massaging, you can improve the blood circulation of the patients, and I think promote good health for the elderly.
Right. It's all about, it's just there, maybe you've known, but it's at all ages. For infants, it's super important, right? If infants are not touched or cuddled when they're young, they become totally mental cases, right? They don't grow up normal. And older people need it just as much. Not that they become mental cases, but it definitely improves their well-being. Definitely.
True. Yeah.
Okay.
It produced endorphin, so that's always good. What you said.
Tough.
All right.
Tough means good. Let's take a 5-minute break before we continue.
All right. 5 minutes, everyone.
Oh.
Yes, I'm back.
Good.
I promised the group some privacy, so I left. And now I'm
okay. So communication. Everything is about good communication. So tips for communicating with the elderly. Here is a YouTube presentation that you can look at your own time and perhaps find some helpful tips. So what is the next step in building a relationship with our employer? Coordination of expectations. Very important to coordinate expectations. When starting a new job and starting a new relationship, each side has expectations, hopes, and concerns. Try to have an open conversation with your patient and his family about their needs and expectations. It's important that you also express your needs and expectations and try to be honest and willing to learn, right? And open and willing to learn. Very important, right? We have to talk about expectations. One thing I want to say about expectations is that sometimes expectations are not realistic, okay? Both on your side and on the side of the employer. So, sometimes an employer may think, oh, we're going to have a caregiver that's working for us. They're going to do everything. They're going to do the job that 4 people did before, right? The gardener, the cleaner, the cook, baker, the nurse, the shopper, so maybe it's not all possible. but perhaps those are the expectations that they have in the beginning. So don't be overwhelmed. And the only thing I want to say about that is to listen to whatever it is that their expectations are, and then wait and see what's possible and what isn't. Maybe some of those things are not possible for you to do, and maybe some of them are, and you can't know ahead of time what will be. So you have to start and see how things go. I think once your employer has a real sense of you and what you can do for them and what you can't, then their expectations may change also, right? So don't be overwhelmed and don't be scared if it seems, like too much. Oh, I can't do all of that. Okay, wait and see. Um, and so it's a process of 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, and then 1 step forward and 2 steps backward. This whole relationship is a process, okay? And so if they love you and know that you're doing your best job, then they won't want, so maybe you're not doing everything they expect. They'll find a way to solve the situation, with other ways. So, don't be turned off in the beginning by if it seems like it's a big expectations that they have from you. So you have to give it time. And the same thing on your own behalf. If you have, expectations that you'll be part of the family and you'll be included in everything and so on, maybe not. Some families don't expect their caregivers to be part of the family. Some employers expect them to step back, not to eat with them, not to travel with them, not to, I don't know. It's not something that's set in stone, right? It's all a matter of a relationship that is an ongoing process. So you know what you would like and they know what they need, and sometimes they don't know what they need, right? And sometimes you don't know what you would like. So it's a process and you have to be open to the interaction that will come forth. Along the way, there may be changes in the patient's or your own expectations and needs, and it's okay to speak about them again, right? It's a process. Hopefully you'll be with this family for a long time, years perhaps, and their needs may change and also your needs may change. If you maintain good communication, you can always talk again openly about your patient's expectations and your own expectations and to re-coordinate them, right? Always important to try to re-coordinate. And any job, any job that you have, it's an ongoing process, and no job stays the same. If you're working there for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and usually after 6 months, and then again after a year, you have a review, right? You sit with your employer and you say, these are the things that I'm happy about. These are the things that need to be different. And they say the same to you, right? I'm happy about this, that, and the other. These are the things I would like you to maybe do better or change or, do another way. So this is like any other job. The only difference is, right, that in a regular job, you do your best and then you go home. Here, it's ongoing. And your home and your job is one, which makes it that much more difficult, right? Everybody knows how to behave in their culture, in their family, with friends and neighbors and cousins and brothers and parents and so on. But this is a different kind of relationship. This is completely different. And it's also different because it's unique. It's unique because what it is you're going to be building with that one employer. And if you're working for another employer, it'll be unique again because you'll be building it with that employer. So you must be creative and you must be very tolerant and open, right? Very tolerant and open. The next step in building a relationship is building trust. I think we all know that relationships that don't have a trust component are not good relationships. And if you lose trust, it's very difficult to regain it. So you must be very, very careful not to lose trust. And what is trust? Reliability, sincerity, integrity, consistency, commitment, and competence, right? So trust is very, very complex. It's not just very simple. Trust is one's willingness to be vulnerable to another based on the confidence that the other has goodwill, is trustworthy, components of honest and openness. It is the shared belief that you can trust someone to achieve a common goal. Hey, you have to trust your employer that they're going to come through with all of that is promised to you, right? You're in a very compromised position in the fact that you're a stranger in a strange country, right? And he's in the same situation as well. He has to trust you. He's in a compromised position. He's a weak person with a lot of disabilities, and he has to trust that you're going to do a good job and care for him and his belongings and his health and his welfare. And, you know, and that's a really big thing that he has to trust. And it's a process, and it doesn't come instantaneously. And sometimes you have to earn a person's trust. And very often they test you, right? Very often people will test you. If you're honest, if you're, you know, trustworthy in many different ways. So this is part of the process. We also test people. When we want to, you know, have people close to us, we kind of test them. Family members, we don't usually test because we grow up with them. But, you know, strangers, when they're coming into our life, we have tests for them in subtle ways, okay, in subtle ways. At the base of trust, there are many elements. Respect, we all know that this is very important, right? We want to respect. Sincerity, very important to be sincere, okay? Can't trust someone if you don't feel that he's being sincere. If he's not telling you what he's thinking, what he's feeling, you know, it's not possible. Integrity is very important. When you say something, you have to say what's not, you know, say what you mean and mean what you say, right? Be on time, do whatever it is that you're expected to do. And it's okay to make mistakes, and people make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, and it's fine, okay? You have to be open about things, right? Tell them what's going on in your life. Something goes wrong, come forward with it, you know, say what happened. Didn't mean for it to happen, but so and so. You have to be reliable, right? Medication on time, food on time. Very important. Consistency. I want to talk about consistency for a minute. Consistency makes people feel comfortable and secure, okay? People like to have their routines, okay? We all have routines. We all know what we do in the morning when we get up, brush our teeth, da, 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 da. Our routine makes us feel safe and comfortable. And, you know, the more disabled you are, the more the routine makes you feel safe and comfortable. So you have to learn very carefully what is the routine, what is the process that, you know, is the rhythm of the pace that things that are happening in this particular home. You're younger, you're healthier, you can do things better, different, efficient, but no, wait with that. First, you have to learn the way they do things in the same exact order, in the same exact way, not to touch anything that, you know, not to move anything. And once they have your trust, then you can do things the way that you think is best. But it's a process of building trust before you do things differently than the way they know how to do it, or the way that they like to do it, or the way that they're used to doing things, all right? Even if it doesn't seem to you a good way to do things, okay? So you must be sensitive to that. So that's consistency, right? Doing things in a consistent manner, paying respect to patterns that people have, and commitment. It's all about commitment, right? You've made a commitment to care for them, and they've made a commitment to care for you, everything that you may need during these times that you're together. And that's a very important part of building a relationship. More ingredients of trust: willingness to be vulnerable, okay? A sense of security, the trust recipient will meet the expectations. goodwill, a belief that the recipient of the trust will protect the well-being of the trust giver. Very important, okay? They want to know that you're going to protect them and that whatever you do, you have their best interest at heart, okay? Not something to harm them. Reliability, the connection between predictability and goodwill, honesty. Can't say anything about honesty. We all know how important that is in any relationship, especially a relationship, right? If you feel that someone is not honest with you, you can't trust them. Can't trust them with big things. You can't trust them with small things, right? So honesty is very important. Openness, again, okay? Don't keep secrets. Don't do things behind their back. Don't whisper. Don't, you have to be very, very aware of the fact that maybe you're not talking about them, but if somebody hears you whispering, they may think so, right? So you have to be very conscientious about that. And reciprocity, treating others the way we would like to be treated. I think this is, this is the basis for all relationships, no matter who we are or what part of the world we're from. We want to be treated well, and we want to trust that we, and so we will treat others well as well. How to build trust and a trust relationship with our patient. Effective tools. Remember that your patient has opened his most private space to you, his home. And like you, he has concerns, expectations, and hopes from this relationship. Give trust and trust yourself, trust your patient, and trust the process of getting to know each other. If you trust the other, they will trust you. Always tell the truth. If something bothers you, don't keep it inside. Try to talk about it. Again, I say you're entering a person's home and a person's life at a critical point in his life, okay? He's in crisis. This is the lowest point in his life so far, right? A person doesn't bring someone to live with them, to care for them in a good time in his life. This is a bad time in his life, a bad time in his life and a bad time in his family, that they come to the conclusion that they can't deal with this alone anymore. And so, this person is in a state of loss. He's also mourning all the losses that he's had in his life, perhaps the loss of his physical abilities, his motor abilities, maybe mental abilities, maybe his status in the community or his status in the family. All of those things are, are a very difficult time in life. And getting used to a stranger in his life, someone doing things for them, it's very debilitating. And it's also causes a lot, may cause depression all by itself, just by having someone, a stranger coming to the point where you can't do things for yourself is very debilitating, very stressful. So again, you have to be very sensitive that not only you're in a crisis, but your employer is in the lowest point of his life and he's in a crisis as well. So again, trust, so important, right? So important. Step number 4, creating the caregiving alliance. The caregiving alliance consists of 3 essential components: agreeing on the caregiving task, agreeing on the goals of the care, and developing a personal relationship consisting of mutual positive feelings, trust, and good communication. This kind of sums up everything that I spoke about. And I want to stress the fact that in the beginning, again, don't be overwhelmed. If your employer has expectations that you won't ever eat, or that you won't ever sleep, or that you won't ever take a shower, this is unreliable. This is unrealistic. But I'm assuming that those are not going to be the kind of expectations that they have from you, right? Because those are not humane. So don't be overwhelmed and don't be afraid, to say to yourself, I'm going to try and we'll see what happens after a while, right? First, you got to try. And then you'll see when your employer sees that you're giving it your 100% to try to do everything that needs to be done or that they would like to be done, Maybe you can and maybe you can't. And then they will have to decide and you will have to decide. But in the beginning, you have to give it all an open, good chance. Okay, this is very important to try to do, the best that you can. The caregiving alliance is usually determined at the beginning of a relationship between the caregiver and the patient and constitutes the primary infrastructure for the relationship between them. Such a contract gives stability to the caregiving relationship and a sense of mutual responsibility and partnership. I think we all know that first impressions are very important, okay? So you want to make a good impression. Very important in the beginning to make a good impression. I think everybody does that when you're going to a new job. You want to make, you present yourself in the most positive way, right? All your good traits forward, right foot forward. After a while, you get to know your employer, they get to know you, they get to know your strengths and your weaknesses. Everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. But in the beginning, you want to make a good impression. Smile a lot. I got to say it again. Smile a lot in the beginning. Smile always, but smile a lot. Step number 5, taking into account social and cultural components. Part of the caregiving alliance is to take into consideration social and cultural components. You and your patient come from different culture and you have different language, lifestyle, customs, preferences, and beliefs. It's okay for you to express your preference and to keep your customs. It's better to talk about it and the patient and reach an agreement. Try to take into account culture, values, customs, traditions of your patient. This includes food preferences, daily routine, and habits. I want to say again, the kitchen is a very important part of most families, right? And a Jewish kitchen is a sensitive space, depending on, the way that the family behaves in terms of the traditions of keeping meat and milk and so on separate and so on, and Shabbat. And the Jewish religion has rules and regulations about every aspect of a person's life from the minute he's born until the minute he dies. And so, can't learn about everything ahead of time. You just have to learn it very slowly, what's appropriate for your family. And it's very specific to that family. And that's the only thing that's important that you learn. That's it. And again, you have to be sensitive to the fact that not to be insulted if they tell you don't put your food where their food is, don't use the refrigerator, don't use the knives and forks in the beginning until they trust you to do things the way that they need it to be done. Okay. And it's a process and you just have to learn it. That's all there is to it. I will say that in Israel, like everybody else, is conscious about saving money, not wasting money, especially old people don't like to, waste money. Electricity costs money. And so you may find that in many homes, there are solar heaters. Most Israelis have solar heaters on their roofs. But if there's no sun, like the last couple of days, there's rain, people use electricity to heat water for cooking, perhaps for bathing, for everything. So all of those things may be sensitive in the home that you're in. Ask when would be an appropriate time to take your shower, to do your laundry, whatever it is that you need. Everything needs to be negotiated openly and ask. Okay. And so maybe in the daytime there's more sun, you can take a shower that doesn't require heating electric water. Maybe in the evening it does, so maybe you'll change your own habit and take your shower in the morning. Whatever, all of those things you must be negotiate as to everybody's satisfaction. Okay, I'm just using that as an example, but when you're living with someone, there's a lot of little things that can make a big difference in the way that you interact and you communicate. I invite you people, ask questions, respond, anything that I've talked about in terms of building a relationship. What do you think is the most complex part? What do you think is the easiest part? Do you have any concern about any of these steps? You can always practice. And you must know that you should not feel alone, okay? Hopefully you'll have an opportunity to interact with everybody here and also with the family and also with the social worker and see me. And you have a lot of options of not feeling alone if you encounter any kind of difficulty. Google Translate isn't so hot, but perhaps Anat can give you some tips on other translating YouTube
Unfortunately, I'm not
options.
familiar. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with any. I try to find some, if it's apps or website. If you find something, please let me know. And of course, you're more than welcome to contact me. Those who already contacted and knows that I respond. And sometimes it takes a while because I'm getting a lot of messages and sometimes I cannot respond, but I do respond. Make sure that each and every one of you will get a response from me. So you are more than welcome to do that. And I invite you to ask questions right now and concerns. Clarification.
Anyone want to share something, ask something?
Do you like to go over the steps real fast?
What steps?
Again, you're asking about the complex step and the easy step.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm saying
Steps
maybe
about about building a relationship.
like in short, let's
In short,
for those who it was too much, maybe
too quickly. Okay. What were the steps that we talked about before? 1 minute. Where is that?
ano? Ano check here. Step 2. Okay.
Coordination of expectations, building trust, creating the caregiving alliance, and taking into account social and cultural components. I think those are all the important steps in building a relationship.
Do you think any of the steps sound complicated to you? You think it will be hard to support?
Ma'am, I think it will be all the steps that were mentioned in the slide. I think it will be very helpful for us. All of are walking. I mean, since we are entering in our employer's house, and then I think one biggest issues I think for all of us would be the trust issues, since we are new to their family, and since Ma'am Sarah said also that it will be difficult for them to trust anyone since we are new. And so I think it would be best for us in a couple of weeks or a month, maybe we can try to get their trust, our employers' trust, so that we can trust them. They can trust us to to like give them their medicine, cook food for them, or do some errands for them also.
Right. Trust is very, very, very difficult to give to a stranger. You're absolutely right, especially since you look different, you're different religion, and
Yes,
people
ma'am.
people have a lot of prejudices against strangers that look different, that are different religion, different culture. They smell different. They're young. It's very, very anxiety causing, right? Having a stranger in your home.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes, ma'am. I
I
think that
just
would
want to
be.
say, yes, go ahead.
Mhm. No, ma'am. I think that would be for us, all of us caregivers. I think that would be the best challenge for us to get the trust of our employers. I think that would be the best challenge for us.
And the family.
And the family, right? Always the family.
Yes, and yes, and the family also.
Right. But it's a mutual thing. You want to feel that that you can trust them as well, right? They have your well-being in their hands, and you have their well-being in your hands. So it's a mutual process. But I think that because of Corona, the whole world is in a state of anxiety, because there's like this unknown cloud that's all over the world, and
Yes.
and that puts everybody into a bigger state of stress. So yeah, it's a process, and you're the one that has to take the initiative, okay, to make trust building steps.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Sarah.
No, that's all.
Oh, okay. So, and I like to add that for some families, they had a bad experience in the past, and it will affect. Unfortunately, it may affect you as well. The way they will treat you, they hesitate. They may had bad experience, so try to be patient with that as well.
Okay, another aspect of trust that we didn't mention that I will mention now is, like Anat said, in any field, we come across different types of people, right? And
Right, ma'am.
this is like a blind date kind of thing, right? It's even more intense than a blind date. It's like a blind marriage. And because the relationship is so intense, right? And so there's so many aspects that that needs to be adjusted in terms of living together and working together, and and feeling so vulnerable. So that in Israel we like cameras. The whole country. I don't think there's a corner in the country that is not monitored by cameras for political security, for national security, for being nosy, for whatever else. And so, um, and um, and you may come across a family that also has cameras in the home for their own security benefits. Okay, this is not an unusual situation. So firstly, you can absolutely ask all the questions you like about them. You can ask if you see that there's a camera, you can ask. And it's also beneficial for you, okay? Sometimes if you encounter a patient, an employer that has dementia, that has, different behavioral disorders, it's also for your protection, right? And it's also the process of building trust, right? I just want to say that everybody is also entitled to their own privacy as well. So if there is an area in the house, for example, your own private room or your own private bathroom or something like that, then you have the right to ask that there won't be a camera there, right? Everybody has the right to some privacy. But in public spaces like living room or bedroom or the employer or somewhere else, kitchen, whatever, some homes for security reasons have also cameras outside the home, okay, depending on where they live. So there's all kinds of security issues, and I don't, in different areas, different homes, different people have different, not just a lock on the door, but other means of security. And all of this is fine to discuss, okay? It's all perfectly fine to talk openly about. There's no reason to feel uncomfortable about talking about it, okay? Would anyone like to comment or ask a question or relate an experience about things that we talked about? So Anat, perhaps you want to tell them that tomorrow we're going to have a guest and talk about that a minute.
Okay, so I'm waiting for her approval, but hopefully we're going to have a guest on the second part of tomorrow's meeting, which it will be an experienced caregiver who happen to be also Filipino, and she's been here for almost 12 years. So we will ask some questions. She will answer them, happily answer. She's very warm and welcoming, and think about questions that you like to ask. If you're not comfortable speaking, you can send me messages, a private message, and I will ask it on your behalf without mention names. If you don't want me to, but please feel free to ask any question. She's wonderful, she's very nice, and she had tons of experience. So I highly recommend. And now, need to go. Okay, if anyone needs to go, go ahead. We're about to finish now. So tomorrow we will meet a bit early at around 1:15. Later on, I will let you know if it will be 2 maybe or 2:15, but at the moment it's 1:15. And that's it. Today I'm going to send you more recorded sessions. And later on, I will send you the links who saw the presentation and the recorded meeting for today. So have a lovely afternoon, not evening.
Yes. Yes, one afternoon.
Yes.
Afternoon.
And I will send you the email that I promised.
Okay, ma'am. We'll just have to wait for the.
Try to call
Bye
right
for
now.
Toda,
now,
ma'am, toda.
guys. Talk to you tomorrow again.
Bye, Ma'am
Bye.
Sarah. Toda.
Enjoy the rest
Ma'am.
of the afternoon.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Ma'am Shara.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.